Yeah, I've done that many times. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting for Bedford Township, February 20th, 2024. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the At this time, if Pastor Sean Bussell could open us up in prayer.
To come into this meeting and to guide this meeting and lead this meeting. I thank you for everybody here. I thank you for folks that are stepping up into leadership positions, and I thank you for the people who care about this township and are trying to continue to find ways to make it better. So go before us, and it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Appreciate you being here. Okay, item 2 is approval of the agenda. The only thing I'd ask is that we remove F to A, or, put A to B, just move them down, swap them. That way the gentleman that's going to be presenting isn't waiting around. So, other than that, look for a motion.
Motion to approve the agenda is amended, moving 8F to 8A.
Support.
Okay, motion supported by Mr. Gore. Any discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Janasek?
Aye.
Ms. Berger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 3, the consent agenda. Minutes from the February 6, 2024 regular meeting of the Bedford Township Board. B, general savings, pooled funds, and CD reports from the treasurer for January 2024. And C, balance sheet and revenue expense report for the period ending January 31st, 2024. Look for a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported by Janazek. Any discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Janasek?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Ms. Berger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 4 is a presentation from the Monroe County Sheriff's Department. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Joe Hammond, obviously with the Sheriff's Office. You received the stats for the month of January. Everything seemed to be well within its kind of standard numbers. Couple quick ones to point out. Hurricane Vape was broken into. We had altogether 3 suspects in that, one of which being an adult that I believe is still in custody actually for the second time. After he was released, had committed another crime, was taken back into custody. Of note on that, there is actually, I guess of some note, an unrelated kind of serious crime that our detective bureau is following up on that kind of blossomed out of that. That's unrelated to the original B&E, but it's worth noting, although again I can't give the details because it is still an open investigation. But just this past weekend, I know it's into February now, but Maple Grove Golf Course was also a victim of breaking and entering. 2 suspects were on scene at the time. We were able to apprehend one of them. The other one did flee, was able to get away for the time being, but he has been potentially identified, and some follow-up is still being done on that with our detective bureau as well. And then lastly, there was a fatal house fire in Northtown Meadows. They were out conducting cause and origin investigations on that today. Nothing appears to be suspicious of it. No reason to believe there was any foul play or criminal acts behind the fire itself. We don't have all the details of it completed. As I said, they were working it today, but again, nothing suspicious or any foul play suspected in that. And the last thing I always touch on is the speed data signs. We're still in the high 90s for compliance with the speed limits through there.
Cool. Anybody have any comments, questions? Anything else? Really appreciate you guys being here.
So, appreciate it. Yeah, anything we can do, so.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Phil.
Okay, up next is comments from the public. Comments limited to 5 minutes for board agenda items. Just state the agenda item you'll be speaking on. Did you start our time?
Gail Cade, 1056 West Temperance. I wish to speak to 8A. 2001, a time when the word community had a totally different meaning in this township. This is when the original skate park was built. The kids asked, the parents stepped up to help, and the parks obliged. Before you is a timeline from 2019 to 2023 with history highlights of the park and township actions. The efforts by the Park Commission is evident, not so much from the township, but you can see a clear correlation between the parks and a mismanagement in the oversight of the maintenance department. While the public deserves to see all the details, I just want to give primary points which pertain to the agenda item. In 2019, under Park Commissioner Jerry Goodrich, there was a breach of a contract with Kurt Kravchik, and the park was closed for the majority of the year. There were talks of tearing it down. In 2020, COVID. The Park Commission wanted to work with Don Wilson, but most of the work instead was given to Doug Kohler, our building inspector, along with the Sheriff Jaws program to make repairs once again. With other issues, there was graffiti within a month and some more damages, and kids on bikes invaded the skate park. Mr. Peroni states he is revamping the maintenance department. In 2021, there was an election, and we had a new park commissioner, Aaron Adler, to take charge to get the repairs done. Maintenance department is stretched and cannot be all to all. In 2022, Mr. Peroni prohibits the maintenance department from mowing Indian Creek. The parks lose control of their funds, and he tells the parks to maintain, but offers them to go to the ARPA committee with ideas for them to consider for the parks. Mr. Steiner suggests that there's project tracking of the ARPA fund money at that time. And Carol from the parks meets with the ARPA committee, and despite no video recording of these meetings for proof, I, for one, witnessed the response, which was a sad excuse to deny them ARPA money, their primary request. In 2023, Mr. Adler, a huge advocate for the skate park, and he speaks with the kids who use the skate park during a park meeting. They actually attend. The meeting was held at Parmalee Park. The park board is labeled as a new group with no governmental training. A resident is criticized at a township meeting for speaking out on behalf of the parks, and the supervisor has the township maintenance department working in the DDA's Pearl Albert Park 3 days a week. The parks are accused of not abiding by township policies, and finally the park is shuttered under an alleged order from the township insurance company. Interpret all of this as you will, and I can offer full copies to anyone else who wants it. But know the township is not obligated to provide for any parties or anything else, whether it be for senior citizens or dogs. They are, however, obligated to abide by policy number 3.26. If we want parks, then we're going to have to step up to the plate and be heard. Our tax dollars should and must work for us. And if we want parks, then they need to know it. Our parks are in jeopardy, people. Our commission's in jeopardy. And we need to give them the money and the ability to control their destiny. Even if the township won't support the parks, we can choose to do so. There is an opportunity to enable our park commission to do as they need. There are many options to be explored, not all today, but let's work together. Let's give them a chance. Let's hear them out. The statements made on TV 11 were not totally true. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments?
Good evening, Logan Tisdale, 1308 Brandywine Street. Unless you have something different than what's on the table here about the sheriff's report on 4A, I have no idea what they did. All it has is a bunch of offenses with a bunch of numbers here. Can anybody tell me the deputies that work here, what kind of activity they had for the last month? How many traffic stops they made, how many traffic citations they issued, how many accidents they investigated, what kind of criminal activity they had? This is a simple report that doesn't tell you anything. How much money was paid in overtime? Do you know how much money was paid in overtime? The sergeant that was up here he was up here about 4 or 5 minutes. I think the last meeting I was at, you had paid a guy $5,000 to do a salary compensation evaluation. He was up here for almost 40 minutes. We probably paid those deputies 20 times what you paid that guy for doing that, but yet nobody has any questions. Well, pretty simple, just overlook it. And that's exactly what I've been complaining about for 10 years. You don't know what they're doing, nobody cares. I got news for you. I travel the road every day. I don't see anybody getting stopped by the sheriff's department. I travel all the time. I see it at Lewis Avenue, racetrack. How many accidents did they have last month? How many accidents did they have in 2023? Do you know? My guess is nobody cares. Well, I do. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments?
Lamar Frederick, 3254 Deer Creek Drive, 8F, now 8A. I was around in 2001 when the first skate park was put in place. 2001 to today, no wonder. It's old, it's worn out. It's been repaired over the years several times. There's been somebody put a bonfire under one time. So, and we've had confrontations between different groups who wanted to use it from time to time. There's a presentation tonight for a new skate park and a bump track, or pump track, I guess is what it's called. I'd like to see that project, if you're going to do it, be done strategically. Your first question is this a project that would benefit the young people in the community? And is this a project which, if done, would be of benefit to the whole community? That's your first step. And if it is, then the park board has provided to you the next step, and that is design. Because you aren't going to be able to go to get any grants or any money unless you have something concrete to hand the grant committee. You will also have to decide how much money the township board is going to put to this project. This is not something you're going to do in one afternoon, folks. This is going to take some thinking, some time, some planning. And I think you can do it, but you have to do it in collaboration with the Park Commission so that everybody knows what the next step is and who has what responsibility and what the timing is. This is a project I believe that this board should support. And I believe that this is a project that would be of benefit to the community, to the young people. The original skate park was used quite a bit. I remember it opened, Mark Fuller had a good program going for a while. You were on EDC then, I think. Trudy was around. And it was used, and it was used a lot. But if we're going to do this project, there's some other issues that have to be resolved. Bikes and or skateboards don't work at the same time. So it has to be scheduled. They have to have people who know when they can use it, when they can't use it. There has to be some kind of a maintenance program put in place. Maybe the consultant can help you decide what that ought to be, but you're not just going to put it in. Pay $800,000 if that's what the number really is, and then let it go. There has to be some maintenance involved every year on that project. So in any event, I support going forward with this project if that's what you want to do. But I think you have to do this strategically, step by step, and work collaborative with the Park Commission. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments? Okay, seeing none, moving on to 8A, Parmalee Skate Park proposal. Carol? So just so the board has a clear understanding why they're on tonight, I recommended to Carol to put it on tonight instead of spending money and moving forward on something that the township board might or might not support. So that's why they're on tonight, kind of like how we do with some planning things. They come to the board first before they go through all the processes and spend all the monies and then get denied. So they're here tonight to kind of get the feeling of the board of the direction this board is willing to go, if they're willing in the end to ultimately fund the project. So there you go.
Okay, all right. Asa, can you hear us?
Yes,
Yes?
can hear you all good. Can you guys hear me?
Can you hear? That's about as close as we're going to get, I think, on that.
I'll try to talk loudly.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if they can help with the sound, but we can
Turn the computer sound up.
we can barely hear him. Yeah,
Try it again, Asa.
Testing.
that's pretty good.
Can you hear me?
Very good?
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, that's better.
All right,
Perfect.
why don't you give them a condensed version of what you told us 2 weeks ago on Friday?
Yeah,
Okay.
gotcha. Yeah, so my name is Asa Beckham with American Ram Company. I do product development at ARC, and we are based out of Joplin, Missouri. But we have projects in all 50 states and 40 different countries internationally. What we are is an action sports design build firm that specializes in skate parks, bike parks, and pump tracks. And I've been in talks with Carol on developing a concrete skate park and asphalt pump track. And we've been working with a lot of different communities in your guys' area on similar type projects. Currently, we're working with Toledo Metro Parks on designing an asphalt pump track, and we're working with Ishpeming, Michigan on designing a concrete skate park and asphalt pump track. And what we're seeking today is approval for the conceptual designing of a concrete skate park and asphalt pump track at Parmalee Park.
Where was that
And I
second place you
actually,
said you're doing concrete?
The Michigan location.
Sorry.
What was the Michigan location?
Yes.
Is it Ishpeming?
That is Ishpeming, Michigan, up in the UP.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yes. And I have a few examples to share with you all, so I'm going to share my screen real quick. So this here, and can you all see my screen?
Yes.
So this here is a concrete skate park and asphalt pump track that we developed with the city of Avondale, Arizona. And what it is a plaza-style concrete skate park that features elements within it for all different types of riders, whether it be somebody who's stepping on a skateboard for the first time or an advanced style rider who's been riding for 20 years. What we really try to do when developing these parks is give something for all different types of riders, because we work with municipalities on all of our projects, so we understand that you have a limited amount of park space and you do as much as you can with the space you have available. Alongside the skate park features a pump track, and a question I get a lot is, what is a pump track? So what it is a series of small rollers or hills and big, large built-up turns called berms linked together to create a track. And what you do instead of pedaling through this is you pump up and you pump down, thus the name the pump track. And what it is just a great way to exercise, to learn, develop riding skills, and to just get outdoors and have a dedicated space to ride your bike or skateboard. The great thing about these types of projects as well is that this park can be used by almost anybody with a set of wheels, whether it's a skateboarder, a bike rider, a scooter rider, rollerblader. Anybody that wants to get out and enjoy the park has a space dedicated for them and allows for a much wider user base to enjoy the park. I have a few other examples as well. This is another project that we developed in Bernalillo, New Mexico, that again features a concrete skate park and an asphalt pump track. And one more example, this one is in Superior, Colorado, so it's a similar climate to Bedford Township. Again, concrete skate park alongside an asphalt pump track. And throughout this kind of approval and discussion process, we've been utilizing this sample design just to give a big picture idea of what we'd like to develop. And again, this is a concrete skate park alongside an asphalt pump track, kind of an all-wheel type of park. Kind of our typical process when developing these projects is our conceptual designing contract. And what that entails is us coming out with one of our professional designers to visit the site and discuss with project stakeholders of where exactly we should place it, get an idea of the topography of the area, ideas for entry and exit, and spectator viewership. The next step of that process is for us to facilitate community engagement, to identify a preferred theme and style of park that you'd like to see and what the locals would like to see. And throughout that process really creates a sense of ownership within the locals for the project, because, they can point out and see, oh, I voted for, the half pipe to be in there and it made it in there. I voted for that element and it's in there. So it really creates a fun kind of interactive experience with the locals in the project. We facilitate that community meeting, and then we also run an online meeting for kind of the younger kids who maybe aren't as vocal in the in-person meeting. We'll run an online one to, again, gain more information from the locals on what they'd like to see and get a better idea from a wider, area, a wider range of people from other than just the in-person meeting. Once we've had completed that process, we will put together our initial conceptual design for the project, and we will, again, gain more feedback from project stakeholders. And typically we like to identify a kind of community lead on the project to help us out in tweaking the design, incorporating those specific elements that the locals would like to see. Once we've finished the conceptual designing process, what we will do is put together a 2D site plan on your location for the project, 3D renderings of the project, similar to these you see here. And lastly, we will provide you with a engineer's construction estimate of the project. And what that gives you is all of the necessary project information that you all need to begin, figuring out how to fund the project, potential donors, and different things like that. And just kind of gives your team all the building blocks to move forward. And so we do the design work, and then we also do construction. So kind of that whole process will give you, all the information you need, and then we're your team for construction as well. So it's not really like you have to, reach out to a bunch of different companies to get an idea on that. We are on Sourcewell as well, which, if anybody's not familiar, is a government purchasing co-op contract that is already competitively bid firms so that you do not have to. And I would say, 80 to 90% of our projects are procured through Sourcewell. And again, it satisfies any bidding requirements and allows us to contract with you all directly, saving tons of time and money on the overall project without having to go through that long bidding process.
Quick question. So does the 16,000, is that just to go to Parmalee Park and study Parmalee Park? Or is that to go to our four main parks?
So, and we haven't exactly established the absolute location of it. Typically, we do like to have at least 1 to 2 sites to choose from. So if you guys do have a couple in mind, that we can go out and take a look at some other ones and provide our opinion on which we'd see best. But it's just kind of a project-to-project basis and depends on, what sites you have available. But if you guys would like us to look at any others, we can do that as well.
And what would the cost difference be for that study? So if we have you looking at, say, White Park, to do a study at White Park.
So I would say there would be no increase in the fee for us to just go out and take a look and provide our opinion on it. It'll be that same $16,000 fee if you would like us to look at any other sites. And there is, going to be a limit on how many we could view. It'd probably be 2 to 3 maximum. because we just like to keep it within a day's time for us to go and visit the sites. But I would say no increase on cost if you like us to look at any other locations.
Okay.
We were thinking either White, Parmalee, or possibly even Carr. We're in negotiations to buy that strip of property behind the church there, which might give us some more room for a pump track. So those were the three we were
So
thinking.
you're going to study all three.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure your hearts ain't fully set on Parmalee.
Yes, we're going to study all three. Yeah. Yeah. Whatever they suggest, the best.
Do we want to open it up to questions, or do you have more you want to say, or go ahead, Mr. Bruning?
I have a question for you, Asa. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
On one of these, like skate parks and pump tracks, when it's all put in, roughly what is the upkeep and maintenance that would have to follow after you guys built it?
So when designing and building these projects, we work with municipalities on all of our projects, so we do have, that maintenance factor in mind. Concrete skate parks are virtually no maintenance on the back end. They are made of very thick reinforced concrete, and the only thing that they take, load of is skateboards and bikes, and so it's a very low pressure of, load on there. So typically all you have to do is keep the park free of trash and debris, and just, keep an eye out for any cracking that may occur. That's not very common, but it can happen, but that is something that our team can, come out and fix down the line if anything does occur. But typically, you're not going to have many maintenance concerns with the concrete skate parks, especially. Asphalt pump tracks are kind of the same thing. They're built with a very high construction quality. And again, the only maintenance that you're going to have to do there is keeping debris free, as well as maintaining the interior islands on them. So in some of those designs I showed you, there's little patches of grass in between some of those tracks and stuff. So you may have to, mow that once a season or so, or kind of upkeep that with Public Works. But we do also have some options where we can install turf or kind of like a track-like substance within those interior islands to reduce the maintenance factors even further.
Mr. Steiner?
Good evening, Asa. Next question, warranty. What kind of warranty would you provide on this type of pump track or skate park?
Yeah, so we have a 1-year warranty on both the concrete skate park and the asphalt pump track. And the reason for that is, these types of projects, typically the only issues that, will arise are within that first year. And, at that time, we can come out and fix anything that needs to be fixed. Typical things may be some slight splitting in the asphalt from the first freeze-thaw cycle. We send our team out and patch that. And then really after you've gone through the first freeze-thaw and we've done any needed repairs, and again, it's not, not every project has those issues, but it does happen sometimes. But after that first freeze-thaw, if we need to do any patches, we do that. And then after it's kind of done that, everything's really set in, and the project is kind of, set for the next 20 to 30 years for the concrete skate park, just because it's a very high, construction quality. And again, it just has a very, low amount of load on the project.
Have you experienced much in the line of cracking of concrete on these parks at all?
No, we really don't. And I think it's just due to, we've been building parks for 25 years now. We have a very detailed and precise construction process. And we've just identified, a lot of things that we can do to reduce any cracking. But I would say majority of projects have no issues, within the first 15 to 20 years. But just kind of depends on, each project.
And obviously you would, create the appropriate, rain runoff, et cetera.
Yes, yeah. So we have, licensed landscape architects, licensed engineers. They'll be working on the design of this project, where we'll ensure that, anything that needs to be addressed in terms of, runoff, drainage, and kind of all those factors, those will all be addressed through our design process.
Okay, thank you.
Do you need to keep going with your explanation of anything else, or do we want to open it up to questions? I don't want to cut you off through your process of what you're doing.
I think I'm ready for questions.
Okay, Mr. Gore.
So going back to the maintenance, and some of this is going to be geared towards our end and our legal, but as far as cleaning up the graffiti, because it's going to get graffiti, there's no question about that, it's going to happen. What are we doing with that? How is that being cleaned? It's going to be by our maintenance guys. You have chemicals that take care of that. Is it going to have to be painted?
So typically, the concerns with graffiti is, kind of location of the park. So if it's in a pretty, isolated area within a park, you typically, may see a good amount of graffiti. We have some products that we recommend to our clients. There's this one, it's got a funny name. It's called Elephant Snot, but it's very effective at removing graffiti, and it's a very easy to apply. It's kind of a spray-on mist that you then power wash. But really, there's not too much that can be done to prevent graffiti because we don't want to put anything on the surface that'll affect the traction or anything like that within the skate park. So that'll take away from, the ride feel and the experience of the park. So really, what we recommend for graffiti is removing it as soon as you see it, and, trying to put the park in a easily viewable area, and then, the recommendation of that product for removing it. But I know typically a lot of times communities really take ownership of the skate park. And a lot of times what you'll see is, the older riders will kind of watch out and keep the younger guys, in check and in line and just make sure that they keep the park in tip-top shape because they want to enjoy it just like everybody else.
Well, that's one of my questions for the park board is how set is your hearts? Because, even he started off with Parmalee Park. I think it's the worst place to put it personally because it is tucked in, in a corner. You have to drive back in there to get to it. White Park or, even Car Park, you get traffic driving by seeing activity and people could call the cops. So I think, probably in my opinion, it's not a great idea.
My next question is probably going to be geared more towards our legal counsel. You're talking about keeping the park and the pump track free of debris, and that would be on our maintenance department. Probably have to go out there daily to check on it. So, Phil, what is our liability when bottles are going to be broken out there, just like at the Parmalee Park? What happens if our maintenance don't get out there to clear off the debris and somebody gets hurt? Where's our liability on that?
Well, there is the potential for liability. Generally speaking, on a public structure, public building like this, there's governmental immunity. But there are exceptions to governmental immunity.
Correct.
And the building or structure exception is one notable exception, and that is if there's a defect in the building or the sidewalk or the structure and someone is injured as a result of that, then governmental immunity can be overcome, and the unit of government can be responsible or can be liable for a defect in a governmental building structure, and I would say the skate park would qualify. So as Asa was talking, I was thinking through that, and first of all, I think the warranty is light. So if what he says is true, and if problems occur within the first year and they come out and they fix those, why not extend the warranty beyond 1 year? Because if what he says is true, they're not experiencing problems, we have a longer warranty. Because we're going to have to repair when you're concrete cracks. Anybody who owns a home or has had to have any construction work done, there are things that you can do to slow that process down. But concrete settles, concrete cracks, and when you're dealing with something like this, anything like that will have to be repaired and be repaired right away, or we're going to have an issue or potentially have an issue if someone gets injured. The other thing is we have to work closely with our insurance carrier to make sure that, I would say even at the outset in the design phase, just like Lamar mentioned, do it systematically. So you're working with all the park board, the park commission, your insurance carrier, so that you know what's ultimately being constructed will be done in a safe manner, can be maintained safely, to minimize our exposure. But there's no substitute for adequate insurance coverage should an incident occur. You're talking about maintenance, glass, broken glass, somebody's injured out there. We know that's occurring and we don't clean it up. That could fall within an exception to governmental immunity.
Correct. And we know that our maintenance guys are going to have to be out there daily, but they can't be out there 24/7. They're going to go out there and it's just going to be one added responsibility on their already overburdened schedule. And going back to the original skate park that we had, unfortunately, Asa, people did not take ownership of it around here. It went into disrepair. It was graffitied. They tried to start a fire to it. There was broken glass and debris all over the place. It finally had to come down. It had to be padlocked and cut down. And I'm just afraid that this is a potential with this. I understand putting it in a better location with better lighting and more people around, because there's people all summer out at White Park or Car Park that could prohibit some. But my concerns are definitely for the liability and
wherever if this project goes through, and the project has merit, if the project goes through, wherever you put it, I would recommend having cameras 24/7 so that we can, anything that happens, any damage that occurs, an incident happens, we've captured it on camera. It's evidence.
Great idea, but it's another cost.
It's another cost, but sometimes an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure type of thing. And there may be, it's possible, check with our insurance carrier, there may be some grants for just the camera setup, because that's something that you can mitigate your liability with.
I think the argument, again, you saying, well, they didn't take ownership before, would have been the two things I think of are the quality level of what these guys are doing versus what was, I don't want to say it was slapped together in 2001, but it wasn't this type of project. And to it's been said multiple times, the point of the secluded location, which I'm in that camp too. You do a project like this, putting it in Parmalee to me is just like you're just asking for it. But we'll see. We'll see if we move forward what they come up with, because I don't know necessarily where there is a great secondary location either.
Well, I mean, White is a good secondary location. The problem you're going to have with White is parking, because you put in something like this, you're going to attract a lot of people from a lot of other areas.
Parking already.
This would be the nicest setup probably within 15 miles.
Parking there with the increased popularity of pickleball and baseball tournaments is already
on a Saturday
nightmare.
You're parking in the ditches.
Trying to add something like this.
Well, parking is an issue. Parmalee's a rough spot. If you're going to put it at Carr, the only way you could put it at Carr is if you took out the ball diamond that you just spent $10,000 on.
St. Paul's going to have to get on board with having people park in their church. Will be another one.
Right. So, but at the end of the day, I mean, the board's, the money is to go to find a spot. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's a place to put this. That's where the board's got to say, hey, if it comes back, that there is a good spot, are we willing to fund it? I talked to Kara earlier. If they're looking to do a millage, I talked to them a few years ago about doing a millage, and they're not looking to do a millage. So this would be something that's fully funded by the township board. I think they have a couple $100,000 in their fund balance. So, are you still trying to do pickleball at Car Park with that money? Because that's something we would need to know.
That's something.
If we got to come up with $600,000 or $800,000.
That's why we came to you now, because it's time for budget. We need to know what we can budget for July next year, or
But that's the question. Do you continue? Are you continuing with?
We're going to continue.
We just got the information back from post our last meeting as a board from Manikin Smith in regards to that project. I haven't even looked over it yet.
So you don't know if you're moving forward with that project?
We have the initial information back from
next
Manic.
week.
We haven't even looked over it.
We've got a COW meeting on that next week, so we'll go from there.
So, do you guys have anything else you want to add or say?
No, if you have questions for us,
One of my points of focus on this too, which Asa slightly touched on, is the fact that this being the first step in the front end and doing it properly. Yeah, the design he's using, I believe he had told us, was from Dayton, Ohio. I kind of pushed that design and was looking at that based on the area, based on what would fit in the current position that we are demolishing and vacating. It doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be that size of design. It also doesn't have to be that concept of that large of a skate park and that small of a pump track. Mm-hmm. If we get feedback from the community, which based on our new 5-year plan for Manic and Smith, the skate park was still in the top 3 for that park. Pump track and biking, anybody of any age group can do. Mm-hmm. If we get the feedback that the pump track is more of the highlight and more of the insert, all right, make the skate park half that size, redesign it, let's focus more on the pump track aspect of it. Doing it this way and with this approach and with American Ramp Company allows us to do that and make that adjustment.
What is your timeline, Essa? Is it, so if we approve this tonight, you guys do your study, how many months till we get something back? And then at that point, what kind of timeline are we looking for a final construction?
So our typical turnaround time for the conceptual designing process is about 3 to 4 months after obtaining all the necessary project information. We need typically what we do require is just a topographic survey, a utility map, and a geotech survey of kind of get an idea of the soil. So design process is typically 3 to 4 months, and then for the construction process, that is typically a more lengthy one. Typically, it's about 12 to 14 months after contracting, just due to the popularity of these types of projects and us having a limited amount of build crews. So that one is about a 12 to 14-month turnaround for the construction side.
Yeah, so you're looking, Phil, how would that look doing something like this 6 months in, to they're all done here in 6, 7 more months with a new board? Is that something that we can get into, or?
Well, I don't think that matters. This board,
you're going to have a full new board potentially,
Yeah, but I think there's some continuity, and I think they're doing it right from the standpoint of through Manic and Smith to take the pulse of the community and see what the community wants. Do they want the pump track? Do they want the skateboard? To see what they want. I'd even get your law enforcement partners involved in this in terms of site selection and what they could provide to us. And
I could tell you this, they wouldn't tell you to put it at Parmalee. They've had
that's
a ton of problems at Parmalee.
That's probably a given, but in terms of, I think the first step is to take the pulse of the community, find out what they want. I don't see an issue at all with our current park commission getting this going and then handing the torch to the next commission, whoever might be elected. And then there's going to be some continuity, you would think.
What caught me to our first meeting with Asa a few weeks back was, which I don't think he had mentioned in this, is if we get to that point, we've got a design, we've got a program, call it 800,000. Yes, we as a park board, you as a township board approve it. We move forward. We say, yes, we're doing this. It doesn't all have to be done in one summer and in one piece. We can do it in stages and pieces to it. And Asa, I don't know if you want to touch on that, how you explained it to us.
Yeah.
But it's not like, hey, we have 2 months and we're going to have a brand new skate park and pump track. It can be set into stages and zones, knowing that this is a long-term major project for the parks.
Yeah, sorry, and I did forget to touch on that. Yeah, like I said, we always work with municipalities on these projects, and we understand that, you don't always have the full funding at the time of contracting for construction. So one thing that we can do through our design process is kind of phase out the project into separate parts at set budget amounts. So, something that we could do is, maybe just build the skate park first and then build the pump track at a secondary time. And just kind of break that down into, more attainable, smaller chunks as opposed to having to fundraise $800,000. We could even break down the skate park into, 2 separate sections itself and kind of just work with you guys through that design process to identify, where we think those budget goals should be for the particular phases. And yeah, that is something that we do a lot on these projects, is kind of phasing it out, so you're not required to fund the entire construction at the time of contracting.
And Joe, to your comment about the liability, I mean, you look at the parks we have and everything we have for kids to play on. This is no different. I mean, with the playground equipment we have, there's areas where these kids, 5 years old, are up 15 feet in the air with a ledge they can walk off of. I mean, we have a lot of liability, but like Mr. Goldsmith has explained, we have that immunity. I mean, it's a skate park like this that's in an open area. I mean, it's going to be a lot less maintenance than the one we have. Because the one we have, yes, it was a lot of maintenance. We had to fix the fence on a weekly basis because they're cutting it in half. We had to patch up the walls on a regular basis because people are sleeping in them and doing drugs in them. I mean, it was off the hook at Parmley Park. It was
with the current park too is it was designed strictly for rollerblading skateboards. It was a wood ramp style track.
Right.
The
So
amount of abuse and wear and tear it took from bikes alone versus a concrete style platform that allows for bikes mitigates so much of that maintenance and that wear and tear for the lifespan of that.
So I wouldn't really be too concerned about that end. I mean, our maintenance are at these parks every day. I agree with you when you say, people take that ownership. When you have something nice and people are using it, people will stand up and say, hey, pick it up, or they'll do it themselves. They do it with the disc golf park. We don't pick up trash in the disc golf park. They do it themselves. Yeah, we empty the cans, but they do take pride in these parks with the disc golf. Yeah, that's a long timeline. You're looking at 2 to 3 years potentially out.
I don't expect a project like this to be built in a matter of a summer. Like it shouldn't be. It should be taken in the steps and the progression.
With the process being lengthy like this, because this is something I talked to you guys about a few years ago, was there's really no plan with the parks because the park board owns the main parks with replacement or with general maintenance as a whole to replace this major stuff that costs big dollars. And this is just another thing added into it. So part of the discussion and talk of a millage, is to say, hey, we've got the playscapes at each park that has a replacement date. I mean, they're going to need to be replaced, and they're $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a piece. Parking lots, these buildings, that millage could, over time, be in place to replace and maintain all these things.
Dive into that with you on an entirely separate object. I know Carol has her stance. I think every single one of us on the park board has a stance on that. It's been brought up, and I've considered not a millage for new structure items and new expanding the parks, but a millage strictly based on it's strictly adherent to maintenance and replacement cost of certain things. Like you're saying, playscapes. In a 20, 30-year span of this skate park or pump track, if this were to go through, replacement of such items, replacement of the rental shelters and the pavilions, major maintenance items that a millage solely focuses on that and isn't millage that's money brought in to be used for expansion and for other projects.
What is the timeline on a project like this? How long it's supposed to last?
He mentioned, go ahead, Asa.
I didn't catch that if you already mentioned.
Concrete skate parks have a typical lifespan of about 20 to 30 years. And then asphalt pump tracks, you can expect about 15 to 20 years lifespan as well. But we have had some that have lasted even longer. It really just kind of depends on, how much wear and tear it receives. But I would say typically 20 to 30 for a skate park and 15 to 20 for a pump track. So
when you get to that point, you rip the whole thing out and start over, or does it just get refaced? I mean, because you have the structure there.
So typically, a lot of times what happens in 20 to 30 years in action sports is, styles of riding will change a lot. And, the park that you built 20 to 30 years ago isn't exactly, with the current style of riding anyway. So typically I would say, normally the park would be, demolished and reinstalled. But that's, for one, just due to longevity of it, and two, just the ever-changing landscape of, skateboarding and BMX riding and rollerblading. It's always kind of an ever-changing type of sport. So, it typically can be a good idea to get a redesigned park at that time, but yeah.
Mr. Steiner?
So the conceptual idea that you gave us, it said 800,000. Obviously, a lot of that money is going to be in that concrete. And if we did talk about doing it in phases, I'm thinking it would be more like a 25-6 budget year and a 26-27 budget year or beyond if you get larger. But approximately what would it be for, say, one or the other, whether it's the skate park or the pump track? Break that 800,000, is it 200, 600? And then obviously if we sign a contract, it would have to be only X amount of dollars up front based on the fact that you guys could go out of business next week. So we'd have to factor all that in as well. Not your issue, but I agree with Mr. Goldsmith, and that's the first thing I thought of was security at the skate park. A camera would be like a secondary insurance policy, again, to see what's going on at these parks. Parmalee, when I first thought of, when it was brought up, I didn't know that we would look at other locations, because Parmalee is one that I was going to say that I would not favor just because of the location and how it's tucked back in. So the other two parks would be something we could possibly look at. But again, the maintenance program, we would definitely, again, through the park board, through township, and working through the maintenance department, and Mr. Goldsmith stated, get the sheriff's department at least involved in the process. They've got a lot of work to do as well, but just having that presence. We talked about ownership and people taking ownership of this thing. Unfortunately, we live right close to the state line, and we do get a lot of people that come across that state line that have done damage to our property. So hopefully if we do something like this, the security part would be part of the process. And again, you can't catch everybody, but it might also be a deterrent if people knew that they were definitely being watched.
I would just say, though, okay, we're all probably in agreement, so we don't want to see it at Parmalee.
Right. Oh, yeah.
We're not going to get the support for Parmalee. Secondly, are you...
Parmalee was for the public, so they knew we were talking about
right,
replacing the Parmalee.
Which I'm so surprised there's nobody here. I would have thought this place would be full. That doesn't help the cause of a skate park if there's nobody showing up when this is the topic.
And that's where I commented too. If there is no skate community and there is no support for it.
But my second thought is car park. So let's forget about adding property because we don't have the property yet. Is the township board willing to remove the ball diamond that we just spent $10,000, upgrading? That's the only way it can go a car. It can't go anywhere else. There's no room. And then third, is the park or township willing to put it at White where there's no parking, or remove a ball diamond there? So I mean, I don't want to see them spend $16,000 to come back and us talk about these issues when we could just say, hey, it's really not feasible. You know what I mean? I want to see it happen. I'm in full support of it. I'm willing to take the money out of the rainy day fund and support it. Personally, that's me. But you're going to have to remove a ball diamond. I'm willing to remove a ball diamond at White Park. I think this is important. This is economic development. You are going to see a lot of people come into this community from other areas. I mean, my family, we go to the other areas to go to the skate parks. They love it. We typically will go to Sylvania. But I'm just saying, people will travel all over, and that brings people to our restaurants, our gas stations, and our parks. So I think it's a great thing. But our board needs to decide that tonight. Mr. Gore?
Are you right?
Or whoever. Mr.
So,
Mantra.
my issue, well, I have some other issues, but if we're looking at a 25, 26 budget, 26, 27 budget, there's no way we're getting a skate park for $800,000. I mean, with the rate of inflation, and if things go south in November and things continue for another 4 years with the rate of inflation, you might as well double that $800,000. You're going to be north of $1 million, probably by the time this is ready to go.
That'd be a good question for Asa. Is that rate locked in once you do the study, or is it when you sign a contract with a contractor?
So it's typically, we'll hold our engineer's estimate for about 2 to 3 years after contracting. But, obviously with fluctuating material costs, that can be affected a lot, but it's something that's kind of out of our control. But we do our best to stick to about a 2 to 3 year turnaround on these. But yeah, again, it's hard to, identify how much that could increase, if at all, because, there's some situations where there is no increase. And we have had projects where we designed something, 2 or 3 years previous, and they ended up contracting, for the build 2 or 3 years later, and it was still the same price that we quoted before. So, it's hard to, say exactly, how much it could increase. But yeah, it's just kind of typically we give you a 2 to 3 year turnaround. But we're really good about, designing these parks to be under budget. We're really good, and we have lots of, excellent track record of staying under budget on these projects. So it's something that we really strive to do, and we will do our best, to keep everything, under budget and where you guys plan on everything being at.
There's just no way with the cost of the way the inflation and everything's going now, there's no way we're going to keep it at budget or under budget.
Never know.
It's not possible. So, but you can't account for on the materials and all that. The materials
It'd be lower. I mean, it's a gamble in today's environment. You don't know.
That's not a gamble I'm going to take.
Be the same thing with the playscape that we want to purchase from
Mr. Montry?
Hey, so I've been waiting my turn, and I'm trying to keep all my thoughts in order. So if you guys do you guys go do your market research, and I've done small sample market research, and it was alluded to, there's not 100 skateboarders here this evening. And I had some of the small sampling I've done, I've been told that, and like I said, that's a few people's opinion, that the demand for skating isn't where it used to be in our area, but the demand for the pump tracks and bike facilities is that there is a larger demand and a good demand for that in our area and in general. Is we use the term skate park, the concrete skate park, is that for, like, if you did your market research and you found, no, there's not really a demand for skateboard at all really in Bedford Township, but for BMX and pump track and everything there is, how much does that change your overall design, and how much does it take away from the concrete skate park aspect? Because I would assume that's your big ticket item. That's like the concrete is the expensive piece of the projects. How much does that change? How much would that change your design, and how much would that change overall cost, in your opinion?
Yeah, so I mean, with the concrete skate parks, they're not specifically only for skateboarding. What we see a lot of nowadays is all different types of riders at skate parks. But if we identify, through that process, through our conceptual designing process, that, skate parks are not a priority and it's not something they really want to see, then that can be something that we, remove from our designing process. And we can just develop, a full-scale bike park that includes, an asphalt pump track and, some skills course elements for developing your riding skills there. But, typically the skate parks are very popular. A lot of cities, don't have them. And when they build them, of, a high quality such as we do, they really see a massive uptick in the riding at the parks and the attendance. So yeah, I mean, we can identify that through the design process, but I really think that even, if it's identified that maybe a skate park isn't the most, sought after element, I still think that it could be a really good, item to include. But, with our team, we have specialized builders for, just concrete skate parks. We have specialized builders for just our asphalt pump tracks. For our bike park type features, we have specialized builders too. So however, the stakeholders and the community want to approach the project, we have the team and the resources available to design and construct whatever type of facility you guys want to see. So the reason that we kind of focus on the skate park is that's just kind of how our discussions have gone. Up to the point with me, at least personally, we were kind of focusing on trying to make an all-wheel type of facility with the skate park and the pump track. But we do have, the team and resources to develop, lots of different types of, users that we could service in our, in our process.
Okay.
And personally, Bedford Township has very little for young teens to do. When you really think about it, outside of school sports, within our park systems, there's not much. The skate park that was at Parmley was the main thing, and that's gone. Disc golf is there, but that's typically, the adults doing that. But
balance bike on and disc
yeah, so I personally feel like we need this, for our families. But Ms. Hirschberger?
So we're not sure, unless we have this, what the people actually want, whether they want both or one or none. Has anyone talked to Bob Miller to make sure that this kind of money is available? I know we have this abundance and all the projects we've already committed to. Do we have this kind of money sitting there? I don't want to get the cart before the horse, but I feel like that's what we're doing. We don't want it at Parmalee. The other two parks don't fit. So what are we asking for tonight? Just the $16,000?
Correct.
That's what we're asking.
To figure
Okay.
this stage
So
out
we know
and the
where we're
cost
going
out.
from here.
Why?
Know where to go.
Why didn't you just go do that? Because you have $179,000 sitting in your account. You could just go get it.
We need border.
Well, no, I told them to come here now, because if right now they get the feeling from us that, hey, we're not going to fund you, they're done. There's no point in spending $16,000.
We can't answer that though right now.
If we can
That's the
fund it,
problem.
well, we can say whether or not we'd be willing to if everything kind of checks out.
We have a vague, rough idea of the type of project we're approaching. And it's not going to be that exact design he showed that was done today, and it may not be exactly $800,000. It was for that location and that design. I, again, pushed and kind of went towards that based on this topography. That size of area is the same size of area that we are demolishing and clearing out at Parmalee. That's the whole reason Parmalee has also been in the talks, simply because that's where we're removing and have open land. This is an opportunity to facelift that park, get it out from under a bad name that everybody clearly consensually has that idea and concept of, and unify it with disc golf and maybe completely facelift a park of Bedford that has had a bad rap since the skate park was put in.
My other
That's where
concern
that came
is
up from.
we go forward, we commit this money, and then other things start going wrong. Now, how do we fix these other things? We still don't have a millage. We just committed all this money to that project. Now we have these other big items that are coming up that we have to use money for.
That's why I went to the park board on year one of them getting elected and said you have to do a plan of a millage. There's no plan to maintain these things.
They really need a
That is an issue, and it's got to be addressed. But it ain't going to happen from this board.
We don't even know how much money we need to allot.
I know.
We have no
That's why I feel
clue
like we're
about
getting
that
the cart in front of the
whatsoever.
horse.
We can't commit, and then if we, let's say the board commits or whatever, and they do this study and it comes back, if it takes 6 months to get back, there could be 4 new board members up here in November that are going to shoot it down and say, no, we're not doing it.
It would have to get back to this board. It would have to be done in time for this board,
That's
which is
not a lot of
reasonable. You could get it back here before October.
But we also don't know, by all the people that came here to support the skate park, we don't even know how many people would utilize it. If they're going to put one in Toledo, let our 24, 25 people go to Toledo and use theirs, and then let's not bring, a gaggle up into Bedford Township.
See, but this type of thing will attract people from all over. Like, it's not like you're not just going to have trickle from North Toledo, like wandering in to come right at a pump track.
This place would be packed.
This done well, you're bringing in people from all over the place.
It would be.
Then you're still bringing up the
Like,
situation
not saying that you're not going to bring a little bit of that, but
and you're bringing up the situation of none of our parks can handle the parking.
Right,
one.
it's an issue.
That's
one.
a main issue.
Now-
If we're bringing all these people into our community.
And there's nothing there.
I'm just saying, all but Parmalee, none of our other parks can handle parking. And me personally, I am not in favor of putting it in Parmalee.
No.
So that's that's why I'm making the statement right now that I don't feel that any of our parks can handle the parking unless something is done.
Well, to go more on what Ms. Herzberger said about allocating money to even do the study, and I've heard numerous people agree here this evening of we should be doing some work ahead, find out what we really want. I mean, what good does it do to say, let's authorize these guys $16,000 to go start designing when we didn't yet define, do we want both? Do we want one or the other?
We did our
The point of that is
plan.
we just spent 20 grand at Manikin Smith for a 5-year plan in which one of the top 3 items by the community in that
Right,
response
they've already done
was a skate park.
Yeah, they've already done that with their master plan and with their.
What other work would you like?
Well, don't take
I'm asking.
don't take offense. I'm just
not. I'm
making a
asking,
comment. But have you given us a copy of your plan for Manikin Smith? No. So how do I know exactly what you've got? I don't have that in front of me.
5-year plan for the parks is publicly available and on the website.
We got it.
But what you're bringing to us, you want to discuss it. You should be bringing us what you're using as your template. Just besides having it up on the website.
What other? I don't.
Okay, I'm not going to get down in the weeds there.
Yeah, so I mean, I think what we're saying is though is that, you know, part of this is saying, hey, township, what do you want? You're saying we already have that. They've already spoken to a certain extent of, hey, we want to see these things.
Community
And this is what is being brought is that step.
is that step.
Like that. All right,
Steps
we've
one.
done the mannequin. We've done the Manikin Smith.
Conceptual
Now,
design and figuring
now
out
do
a site
this
location.
to really narrow down. Yes, that's what's being brought to us right now, as I understand.
Right.
Mr. Gore?
Did we get 3 bids? Did we go out and get 3?
Because of Sourcewell, we did not.
Okay. So isn't policy we get 3 bids?
I mean, with it being, it depends if it's a government contract. You know, if it's a government contract, no, because you're not going to get anything lower than that. So you can bypass it by that.
Smith, if they want to
You know, you're
do this
kind of prohibited too with companies that actually do what they're doing
specifics
too
this
here.
type of project.
Right. A lot of companies.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, the issue is, so he hasn't been to any of our parks then when he was in town?
No, he just came to the meeting here.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion that we authorize $16,000 to have the initial, what you want it, stage 1 or step 1
through 3.
ASA
Correct.
for
Sorry,
the,
say?
because I'm making a motion for the board to vote on for the first step in the process here. Do you just want me to refer to it as step 1, stage 1, initial consultation? What do you want? How do you want me to present it?
No, that's good.
3 steps.
I mean, he put the amount though, and
So
Yeah,
6.
there's a page explaining.
yeah,
it.
he's not going to say the details.
All right, so 16,000, and then also, should I specify where the money's coming from? Trudy and Phil.
It's coming.
General fund or park fund?
I assume that that's coming from their budget.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we authorize $16,000 payable for initial consultation on the skate park coming from Park Board's general fund.
I'll support.
From the what? The assigned park fund.
I'll support.
Support by Mr. Montry. Any more discussion? Mr. Steiner?
Even though this is strictly just the design portion, back to Mr. Goldsmith's comment about if we were to do this, we would want something with a much greater warranty than a 1 year potentially. Do we make any reference to that? Because if we're going to tell them design something for 16 grand, but that a board's going to want more than 3 years, but they come back after designing 16,000, say nope, strictly one year and we're out,
You guys offer more warranty than 1?
or extended warranties or anything?
That would be something that I'd have to discuss with my project managers and other members of my organization. I think that is something that we could offer to you all. I personally have not handled that. just because a lot of our projects, they really are low maintenance, and we have, a track record of hundreds of different projects across the United States, tons of projects in Michigan, where these cities, they don't have these maintenance issues. And I know I didn't provide any information on that in your packets, which I do apologize, but I do have, lots of contacts with other municipalities who have worked on these projects that can, vouch for how easy these are to maintain.
So use that as a springboard. If that's all accurate, they shouldn't have a problem in giving us a greater warranty because their experience establishes that they don't have problems, and it would give us a greater comfort level as opposed to a 1-year warranty. And I don't know where all their experience is. We live in a climate and an area with a severe freeze-thaw cycle that impacts asphalt and concrete. So I would like to see more than a 1-year warranty.
And just throw cold patch down.
Well, I can tell you what, the warranty-wise, this isn't something our maintenance guys are going to be able to do. This is something that it's going to have to probably be company-specific, because if you get a hairline crack or something, there's a whole process to properly fixing it. It's not just, throw a little concrete over it. But
I wouldn't be worried about the concrete.
Something like this, the way he explained it, it's like doing work on bridges. They do them differently than they do your back deck. The concrete's done different. The structure's done differently. It's higher quality. So I agree with you. I think I'm surprised that you said 25 to 30 years on how long they last. A concrete skate park, I would think they'd last 50 years. Yeah. It's concrete, but my little concern with that is in 25 years, if it does wear out, then you got up $200,000 in removing it and building another one for $1.5 million at that point.
Asa,
But
a question for Asa would be: you guys also do design wood style skate parks and so forth, similar to what we've currently got. What's your lifetime expectancy on those?
Those are typically 15-year lifespans, maybe more like 10 to 15, especially for a wood structured build. We actually do not recommend wood structured builds for municipalities unless it's exclusively an indoor park, just due to the wear and tear that a climate can bring on wood structure. So that's something that we don't recommend for municipalities to develop unless it is strictly indoors. But yeah, that's kind of not something we typically
we just proved that. The one we just tore out is 24 years. So
piggyback on that and say a company isn't going to recommend something or say something lasts 50 years. They're in the business of replacing and going. Something they say 10 to 15 years that we just got 23 years out of. Concrete, they say 25 to 30.
Well, and we could have, to be honest with you, we probably could have pushed that skate park longer if you got, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
that's where I'm.
Okay.
It's a company. They're only going to give a certain lifespan. Take it as a grain of salt.
Okay, so we have a motion to support. Any more discussion?
Go ahead. The unknown of the dollar amount, this is definitely going to be north of $1 million, easy probably. The fact that nobody on the board, we're all in agreement pretty much from what I'm hearing, is Parmalee is out. None of the other parks can handle the potential parking issue. And then are we willing to tear out a ball diamond that we just spent $10,000 on? And the fact that by the time we get all this information back, we'll probably be a month or two out from election that could change the whole makeup of everything. And is it going to be approved in time and done in time by that time happens?
And to speak to that, my opinion, your only spot to do this probably is White Park, and you're going to have to add parking somehow to that park. That's my thoughts.
Carol,
Ms. Hirschberger?
I didn't know, Trudy.
I have a question about the motion, so go ahead.
I was just going to ask Carol, you did mention you were trying to possibly buy property.
Yes.
A car. Is there a general time frame when you are working on that you think it might happen? Or?
We are working on it now. He will be at our next, they have a new president who's going to come and speak with us at our next board meeting next week. So we will have more information after that.
Okay, so the point there is just maybe car, by the time everything would get designed, maybe car would have that extra land.
How much property is it?
It's about 2 acres, maybe 3.
Is 2 acres enough to do a project like this?
Well, part of it, you still have to use part of, we've got a car now.
Asa, is 2 acres enough?
Yes, yeah. The sample design I showed you, I believe, was about 20,000 to 25,000 square feet.
Okay. Okay, we have motion to support. Mr. Steiner, do you have anything else?
Trudy has a question.
Mr. Hirschberger?
This motion, are we including that warranty wording in this?
No, I don't think you can at this point.
This is just to get the initial.
Is this just getting the 16? This is not saying the board is backing, we're not going to pay for it right now, we're just saying, we don't care if you go.
I guess you guys could kind of see the I mean, I told you I support, I mean, if the board wants to kind of give you that before you actually move forward with it.
Worst case scenario is that we have a proper time frame, a proper design process, and a proper concept and design for potential next boards.
Right.
Maybe we aren't the ones who decide on this.
Right.
But instead of me or Chris or any other board member going out and getting 3 random bids from Joe Schmo builder who builds wood ramps, this is the proper approach to taking this if we're going to replace a structure that we just removed from the park system.
Okay.
And provide the youth something outside of sports.
Let's call the roll.
Okay. Mr. Bruning,
Yes, aye.
Mr. Montroy,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner,
We do need it, something like this. At least for this phase, I will say yes.
Mr. Gore,
No.
Ms. Janasek,
Aye.
Hirschberger, I'm voting aye because I think you at least need a study so you know where we stand. Aye. Mr. Proney.
Aye. The motion passed. Just had 1 no?
Yeah.
Okay,
Joe's the one
6
who
to
doesn't
1.
Like our kids, Bedford. Oh, let me turn my mic on, I'm sorry. Joe's the one who doesn't like our kids, Bedford. That was Joe Gore. Remember that when you vote.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Asa.
Yeah, thank you. See, this technology's working. Look at this, money well spent.
Dude, that was nice having him on there.
Right, you had to. Okay, all right. Item 8B, vouchers for payment. Ms. Hirschberger?
I'd like to make a motion that the following vouchers be approved for payment. General Fund, $62,418.22. Fire District Fund, $18,418.73. Fire Equipment, $5,110.94. Downtown Development Authority, $1,968.10. Library Operating, $915.09. American Rescue, $2,452.17. DDA Construction, $7,799.50. Building Department, $494.56. Sewer O&M Fund, $714.05. Trust and Agency Fund, $2,897.80. Special Assessment Debt Service, $683.60.
Contract, Ms. Hirschberger?
So before you is the contract from Monroe County Road Commission to perform the work on the roads in Captiva, Plats 1 and 2 SAD. This special assessment district was approved by the board. The total cost of the project is $249,000, which is broken down as follows: Monroe County Road Commission contract $234,500, and then Manikin Smith Engineering cost design is $14,500.
That's your motion, Trudy?
I'll make a motion to approve the Captiva SAD Monroe County Road Commission contract as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported. Mr. Gore, any more discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Janasek?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Proney?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8D, contribution for the Senior Citizen Center. Anybody have any comments, questions on it?
Mr. Prodi,
I'm looking for the board to approve a $15,500 contribution for the Senior Center, Citizen Center service.
Skipped one.
Skip one?
Yeah, C.
Mixed up on here?
they're just mixed up.
Oh.
Oh, I
okay.
see.
Never mind, they're just mixed up. Go ahead.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Okay. I'm looking for the board to approve a $15,500 contribution to the Senior Citizen Center. The services they provide for our seniors is vital, and we must continue to support what they do. That's my motion.
Support.
Okay, motion supported by Mr. Bruning. Any more discussion? Mr. Steiner?
So when will this money, when would it be paid out? Because isn't it normally in July?
I'm not exactly sure when it's distributed.
It is in the budget, though.
So it'll be at the same
Yeah, we
time
budgeted.
frame as
Yeah.
previous, okay.
Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Peroni?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
Okay, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8E, appointment to the Housing Commission. I'm looking for the board to approve Teresa Burrows to the Housing Commission, term ending 12/31/28. Ms. Burrows is a Bedford High School graduate and a longtime resident. Ms. Burrows understands the importance of the Ivor Lindsay and the valuable, affordable housing it provides for our residents.
Support.
Okay. Motion is supported by Mr. Montre. Any discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Peroni?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
Okay, motion passed 7-0. Item 8F, approve agreement with Michigan Mutual Aid Box Alarm System. Chief?
Good evening. So part of my job is to prepare not only for the day-to-day runs that we would have, but also, yes, how's that, better? Okay. But also to prepare for the large incidents, the ones that happen very infrequent, but when they do happen, they're significant. The mutual aid agreement that we have in front of you right now is a statewide agreement that we would have assets available to us if we need anything from a hazmat incident, if we have a rail incident. We do have pipelines going through the township. We do have a marathon tank system in the township. It would just give us readily available for large quantities of assets and also specialized resources. So right now we do use Toledo as a primary for assistance. So this would be if we did have a situation where last year we did have a tornado that went through southeast Michigan in Toledo. Toledo had all their assets tied up into their area. If we did need something, we would have to have a secondary option. So this is what would help us for that.
Anybody have questions, comments?
I reviewed it and grilled the chief sufficiently on what it would mean for Bedford, and I'm satisfied with it.
I look for a motion. Mr. Steiner?
I'll make the motion to accept a proposal for the Michigan MABAS Mutual Aid Box Alarm System as presented by the fire chief. I talked to the fire chief a little bit about our mutual aid this evening. Very similar, but that does not include the entire state, which this puts us into the state program.
Support. Okay, motion is supported. Mr. Bruning, any more discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, up next is comments from the public. Comments limited to 2 minutes. Come on up.
Thanks, Carol.
Lamar Frederick, 3254 Deer Creek Drive. I was impressed what you guys did tonight with respect to the skate park. you're thinking about how you're going to go forward with this project, step by step by step. A couple of things you need to talk about. Who's going to talk to the insurance company to make sure they're on board, know what's going forward? Yeah, I know I just pointed at Trudy. But again, this is the kind of strategic planning that's necessary. So you don't get all out of control and then somebody says, well, how's come we did that? Or what is the effect? Because if you put it at a couple of these parks, you're going to have collateral damage. That is, you're going to lose a baseball field. And who's going to show up in front of here? So you got to have an answer for that too. Secondly, as you know, I'm kind of interested in the roundabout. And so I called the road commission and said, what's the status? And they told me that, no, the bid package isn't out yet. There's still some issues to be satisfied. So it doesn't look like, based on what I know, that you'll have a roundabout this year, but I don't know that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Ashton Course 7948 Wiseman or Lambertville skate park. So I've also been told that Parmalee butts up to Concert Road. I mean, you can even put in like a second entrance there and have a parking area at Disneyland just for the skate park. And then two, I've also heard from a neighbor that lives close to the park right now, said that there is a camera up there, but for some reason it's not being used or someone's not able to look into it. I don't know what that's about. Third, with the skate park, you're talking about the sheriff monitoring it. First off, you're going to put up cameras, also like make sure it's like well lit at night so you can get some good visibility at nighttime too, especially for the cameras. Get it pointed in certain areas if you can catch a license plate, a vehicle, suspect. All good ideas for that. And then another thing too, our sheriff, I know Logan comes up here all the time, says a lot about they're not writing enough tickets and this and that. But I mean, the sheriff, they do a lot of other things too that they have to take care of. They do a lot of other good things too. Investigatively, they take care of these like pedophiles that keep trying to attack our kids. Honestly, I think the sheriff does a great job, so I want to give him congratulations for the work that they do. I've lived here for 3.5 years and never had an issue in my neighborhood, so thanks.
Thank you for your comments.
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. Public input, what a fresh approach to a project. We made cheap fixes in the past, and hopefully if we move forward with concrete and asphalt, we won't have to do that. We have an entire farmer's field that's available to be developed. I would say at Cars Park, if you put it there, get rid of the tennis court, put it over to Parmalee. We have the property offering from St. Paul's. If you notice, your stakes are fences on their property. So you would take the south parking lot and take what is theirs and turn that into the parking and expand the tennis courts. If we get rid of the ballpark, we get rid of the ballpark. Put it over to Parmalee. You have White Park. You have the entire, get rid of the tennis court there, make that the pump track, put it front and center, take the seniors and put them over to Parmalee and everybody will play nicely. You got Pace Setter Park in Sylvania. The kids use that all the time and it goes around the bases of the ball diamonds. One thing that we would have to consider is the rules. Do we lock it at night? Do we close it in the wintertime? What kind of fencing do they recommend so the kids don't cut through it just because we shut the gates on them? You've got snow removal. We're going to put salt on them. We're going to keep them open in the wintertime. These are all things that will have to be approached once they come up with an idea as to where to go. But I agree, Parmalee is not the place where to put it. You put it at White, front and center. You take it over there and put it in the farmer's field. You got limited parking. If there's no parking, there's no parking. That's all there is to it. So you kind of have to deal with it with that. I know that we had issues had issues with the kids skating in downtown Temperance. With the businesses had to put signs up.
Thank you for your
They
comments.
still skate in Temperance, so.
Appreciate it. Any more comments from the public? Okay, seeing none. Board members' comments, Mr. Bruning?
Everyone have a good night, good weekend. Bedford is wrestling this weekend for team states at Kalamazoo. So go Mules, good luck to the Mules. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Gore?
Just everybody have a great weekend. A good, like Todd said, go Mules this weekend. Wish everybody the best of luck at the state wrestling tournament, and we'll see everybody in March.
Go pandering to the kids now, Joe. You always go against them.
I'm going to again. We'll do it again.
Mr. Montroy.
I'll just say I appreciate the members of the park board being here this evening and putting together everything they put together. And I hope that if something like this goes through, that there's we can maintain a strong, good park board, because you're going to need it.
Mr. Steiner?
Yeah, I too was going to say, I think tonight's discussion on the whole park board issue was one of the better ones we've had. We got a lot of opinions out there, a lot of common ground. Not everything was agreed on 100%. I'm glad to see that we have good opposing views. But we've got some real good points to investigate still, even with conceptual design, now that that part's approved to go through, so they can start that. We still have some steps that we need to take as all of the entities, not one by one, but we've got to get together with the entities to make sure we're all on the same page. That's all.
Ms. Janaszek?
I want to echo what Mr. Bruning and Mr. Gore said about the wrestling team this weekend. Good luck. And also the following weekend, we are sending 7 of our mules to individual states. So good luck, boys, and have a good week.
Okay, Ms. Hirschberger? Ms. Hirschberger?
Early voting is currently happening here at the Township Hall, Conference Room C. It will be from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day through Sunday, February 25th. The Clerk's Department will be open for election issues only on Saturday, February 24th from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. The presidential primary election is going to be Tuesday, February 27th. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And March 15th is Cemetery Cleanup Day. So please, if you have anything you would like to keep, make sure it is off the graves by March 15th. The maintenance gentlemen will go out and they clear everything off. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, I too. Thank you, Park Board, for being here. I'm excited to see the study. You know, we'll figure it out. You know, I mean, we have a lot of property. We'll have a lot of great parks. I think it's a great project. Sounds like a great company. And yeah, I appreciate you bringing it here. One thing I did want to announce is that I'm not going to be filing for supervisor this year. I won't be rerunning for public office, not anytime in the foreseeable future. I've been involved here for 16 years now, from park board to trustee to my second term on supervisor. And it's been a great experience. I love my job. I love serving the community. And it's a lot. This job is a lot if you do it right. It takes a lot of time away from a young family, but I've loved every minute of it, and I feel like things we've been able to get done as a board and have been awesome. You know, we've done a lot of good. Like me or not, you know, we've been able to get some cool things done. So part of the reason I bring that up is when I first started at Park Board 16 years ago, somebody asked me to do it, and I would have never ran if somebody didn't ask me to. And the same reason I ran for trustee, somebody asked me to run for trustee. And then I had a group of people want me to run for supervisor. So I'm asking you to get involved in your community. Currently, right now, we have one person, I think, filed for Park Board. We need Park Board members. It's important. You just heard these guys give a presentation. At the end of it, they're going to be potentially leaving their post, and we need 4 new people. So get involved. Get involved in your community. These are the people that are making major decisions on the parks. The Park Board owns the property. Trustees, run for trustees. Did you know they make almost $16,000 a year being a trustee? 15,000, something like that?
13.
Close to it, huh?
13.
13, all right, that was a little bit off. But they make good money. Get involved. They got a couple meetings a month, and they have to come to the boards and serve on other committees, but get involved. Supervisor, $78,000 a year. Clerk, $78,000 a year. Treasurer, $78,000. These are great jobs. I'm not saying to they're not doing their job, but get involved. You start somewhere, you work your way up, and you run for these positions. So, but yeah, I just wanted to say that. I'm continuing to serve, but I will not be on the ticket this year. So, other than that, anybody else have anything they'd like to add? Oh.
I didn't want to forget, we do have one female wrestling for its states next weekend as well. Good luck, Meadow.
Meadow. Okay, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourned.
You look like a teller from Huntington Bank with that outfit on, Rick.